Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I'm going to ask the young gentleman, the Boy Scouts from Troop 77 out of IC, to lead us in the pledge. Gentlemen, I'm asking, please, everyone please rise. And the gentleman, come on up here, take a couple of steps up. You guys ready? Take it away. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Clerk Spencer, please call the roll.
Sabatino.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Polumsky.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Deludo. Absent. York. Absent. Levin.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Onquist. Absent. Kennedy. Absent. Mulliner.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
10 present, 4 absent.
10 present, 4 absent. We have a quorum. On to agenda item 2, receipt of written communication from the public. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who has any written communication they wish to submit? If so, please raise your hand so I can get a count. Anyone have any written communication to submit? Seeing none, we'll go on to agenda item 3, which is public forum. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to address the council on any issue they so choose. When your name is called, we ask that you head over to that microphone over there by Mr. Tannehill, and we are recording this, so we ask that you state your name for the record. Address is optional. Out of respect for work that we have to get done here this evening and in respect for others who may want to speak, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you go over 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up. Clerk Spencer, at this time, is there anybody who has signed up for public forum?
Yes, Mayor. I'll start with Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
As always, we ask that you address your comments directly to the chair.
Claude Bogot, 566 West Gladys. Last meeting, we had a consultant here and said, we got to have a new TIF for downtown. Buildings are old. They do pass the building code, fire department. Infractions are no good. Been there a long time, 35 years. Some of the buildings are 50 years old. We got new facades, new tuck pointing, a little sandblasting. We lost a lot of businesses though. Plaza, hardware store, bookstores. It's all gone. But then he extended the TIF and, well, we got a couple new buildings and a garage. Paid for the garage, but it's the way it is. Well, it sounded pretty good, I guess. You know what I mean? We gotta get that commercial property going. But then they picked up the paper. Kind of indicated that you're putting in Wilder Park, you're picking up Hawthorne School, picking up the administration building of the school district. Well, you already picked up Barron's Park. You already picked up the school along Grand Avenue. What does Wilder Park have to do with development of downtown? We're gonna give up the park and put a high-rise in there? Illusion Lazard, that may be one reason. But that gives the school district and the park district kind of access to two things. TIF money and the taxes. What are you gonna do with Wilder Park and what are you gonna do with Barron's Park? They got the money, right? Coming in. So, I don't know about this TIF. You're adding a lot of things in there that doesn't really have an effect on business. But sure helps out the people you were condemning months ago. The school district didn't want to work with you, the park district didn't want to work with you. But all of a sudden, they were winding up in a TIF. Maybe it is, maybe it won't be. But if in 35 years, the only development that took place downtown was a garage, new facades, the Plaza Building, and a couple things along Addison, but that's in the latter, that's the extent, when it was extended. 35 years, all you did was move restaurants in and restaurants out. So you got to start telling the public, which you didn't mention, why you got the Park District and the school district involved in a TIF. They're involved to the degree they got to nod their head yes, and they do to collect their taxes, but now they got access to the TIF money. What are they going to develop? Especially when you kept on saying they won't cooperate. They won't help us with water retention. They don't care if we have to spend an additional $2 million. They want a valve. See, so my alderman and my mayor got to start telling me why I want to put in public parks into a TIF.
Mr. Pagash, your 3 minutes. I'd ask you to wrap up.
Yes, indeed. So let's see what happens when they really start talking about this.
Tamara Brenner.
Tamara Brenner. Happy 2018. It's a new year, but it looks like some of the same old games are going on in the city of Elmhurst. I saw at last meeting that we had the first and only so far meeting about the downtown TIF, which still has 3 years to go in the current version, which ran for 23 years plus another 12 years, or 13. I'm still confused about how long the extensions go. But we're wanting to renew this TIF, or not renew it. We can't do that. We need to recreate a TIF in the same area or a largely overlapping area. We've had 35 years almost to spur development in the downtown. City manager last time said redevelopment was occurring, and it is. We've helped things out by putting in the build it and they will come parking garage, changed the zoning code to allow 6-story buildings without question, and a bunch of things are happening. So it's kind of curious why we want to reinstitute a new TIF right now. It makes you kind of wonder what new project is in the wings asking for the subsidy now they can't, that they will not build without. Because of the but-for agreement, or the but-for piece of TIF, you must have a but-for statement, which is basically a finding by the city. The city just has to declare that but for this subsidy, this development would not happen. The city can declare that 2 + 2 = 5. It's not true. They can declare it, and they can just declare but for about any project that wants to come into town. I'm really not a big fan of ongoing government subsidized capitalism, but that looks like what we're going to have for another 23 years. And after that, I would certainly expect we'll have it for another 12 years on top of that. I think one thing you guys could do when you put this thing together, which it is going to go through, there's no question about that either. I know it was stated last time, well, we only just started talking about this, we'll be talking about it for 3 months, there's a chance for public input and so forth. Well, not really. There's already been statements by several aldermen that they support the thing fully. The law requires you to hold a public hearing, but there's no requirement that you listen to anything that anybody says. And it's pretty clear that the thing will be put into place and will come to fruition regardless of what anybody thinks about it. One thing you could put in the agreement, though, based on a comment from my alderman, who's not here tonight, but maybe you could pass the word on to him, Mr. Chairman, is that he says it's not a sure thing that we'll extend it by the time the 23 years comes to an end. So I would suggest you put in the agreement that there is no intention of this government body to extend the agreement at the end of 23 years. That wouldn't bind anybody to anything, but it would state your intention that this not be a perpetual thing. I do also understand that the world does expect these subsidies to be given. We're seeing it everywhere at all levels. Look at Amazon, and it's the bidding war that it's unleashed amongst all kinds of cities. This is a small version of it in this town, and other towns, we have bidding wars amongst ourselves. If we don't give money to the car dealership, they'll move to the next town. Same thing with all these incentives. The developers know that they can ask for money and get it, and if Elmhurst doesn't participate, then they risk losing business opportunities. It's kind of a sad state of affairs. I wish it weren't like that. I wish all of these TIFs would go away, and then everybody could compete on real reasons like the uniqueness of their community, their location, their amenities, and things like that. That would be a better way to attract business rather than just handing them a few more dollars. Thanks.
That is all who signed in for tonight.
Okay, that's it for public forum. For those who signed up, is there anybody in the audience who did not have an opportunity to sign in earlier on our sign-in sheet but wishes to address the council at this time? Please raise your hand. Anyone else who wants to address the council? Seeing none, that concludes public forum. On to announcements. Any announcements from the dais? Alderman Palomsky.
Thank you, Mayor. On Wednesday, January 31st, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. at Elmhurst Public Library, the Elmhurst Cool Cities Coalition is partnering with the Citizens Utility Board for a utility bill clinic. Residents are encouraged to bring copies of gas, electric, and phone bills for a free analysis from one of Citizens Utility Board's experts. They'll show you how to spot unnecessary charges, which energy efficiency program rebates can help you, options in energy market, and also phone, TV, and internet. Space is limited. Visit coolcities.org for more information. Thanks.
Any other announcements? Alderman Braham.
Yeah, I'll just announce what was before us on the dais. There's a ribbon cutting for Artists Senior Living in Elmhurst on Brush Hill this upcoming Thursday, January 4th, from 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll go on to consent agenda at this time. Any item any alderman wishes to have removed from the consent agenda to vote no or provide further comment? Alderman Mulliner.
5.5.
5.5. Any other item? Alderman Braham.
5.10.
5.10. Okay. Any other item any alderman wishes to have removed or pulled from the consent agenda? Seeing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 5.5 and 5.10. Motion by Alderman Braham, second by Alderman Dunn. Clerk Spencer.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palomsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo, absent. York, absent. Levin. Park.
Aye.
Onquist, absent. Kennedy, absent. Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
10 ayes, 0 nays, 4 absent.
10 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Consent agenda minus items 5.5 and 5.10 is approved. On to item number 5.5. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to read the ordinance.
An ordinance vacating a portion of the right-of-way adjacent to 845 North Larch Avenue.
To put this before council, I need a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Sabatino. Alderman Mulliner.
I pulled this to make a motion to move this to a date certain at the next city council meeting. So I'm making a motion to move this to the next city council meeting on January 16th.
Okay, subsidiary motion on the primary motion to postpone until date certain, which is what day?
January 16th.
January 16th. I need a second on that motion. Second by Alderman Sabatino. Alderman Mulliner, discussion?
This is a vacation of property, and it requires a certain number of votes by our ordinance, and because of the number of people who are missing this evening, it requires that we have some additional people present, and it was unanimously approved by the code, by the report, so it's best if we move it to the next meeting.
Okay. For clarification, I did talk to the city attorney. This does, is it two-thirds? Three-quarters of corporate authority, not in attendance. So even though the intent of the council was unanimous for the last report, we technically don't have enough people here to pass this. So that's just clarification. Any other conversation as it relates to the motion to postpone to a date certain? Okay, Clerk Spencer.
Oh, okay, we gotta vote on this. It's ready for the next one. Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palomsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo, absent. York, absent. Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Onquist, absent. Kennedy, absent. Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
10 ayes, 0 nays, 4 absent.
10 ayes, 0 nays, motion to postpone is approved. We'll take it up at our next meeting. On to agenda item 5.10. Clerk Spencer, it's a resolution, and I ask you to read the resolution.
A resolution proposing a redevelopment plan and project for and the designation of the downtown tax increment financing redevelopment project area and the adoption of the tax increment allocation financing, therefore convening a joint review board and calling a public hearing in connection therewith.
Okay, to put this before council, I ask for a motion to approve the resolution as read. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Levin. Alderman Mulliner.
This is the ordinance that allows us to begin the process of doing the TIF, the downtown TIF, and I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Braham.
Thank you. I'm not going to go in depth in the points that I made at our last council meeting when the report was read. I do want to acknowledge the comments made by two Elmhurst residents tonight about the TIF, one of which I did not make mention, but I wanted to reiterate what this resident said tonight, and that is one of the things that in the past discussions were the reasons why we weren't seeing redevelopment in downtown was, two reasons that I've heard was we had a density restriction and we didn't have a parking, so we had parking restriction, both of which has been resolved. Albeit to my, at least, view of what the downtown should look like, we removed as a consensus the density restriction, and that density is the change in the zoning code. So now by right, anybody can come into the core of downtown and build up to 6 stories. So density is now resolved. That's not a restriction. That's not something that would prohibit further economic development or redevelopment in our downtown area. And they can even make it an application for conditional use to go up to 10 stories. Again, not that I'm not in agreement with that, but that is the direction we removed. So we removed that restriction. The other restriction was about parking, and that's the discussion that I've heard time and time again. And, you know, over my 16-year tenure as an alderman, I don't care how many parking garages you build or how many surface lots you build, you're not going to have enough parking because everybody wants to park in front of that business that they're going into. So there's never going to be a satisfactory amount of parking. I've said that publicly on many occasions, and I believe that to date. But we built a parking garage on Addison that is significantly in size, at least again, in my perception. I know we're having FFC moving in within the next year, and therefore they'll be utilizing, or their patrons will be utilizing some of that parking. But we have significant, I want to say 5 parking garages without counting them in my head now in the area of our downtown. So parking shouldn't be an issue anymore. So where I'm leading is obviously what I stated last time. The complaints that I've heard before, the discussions I've heard before is, well, builders aren't coming because there's not the density in downtown. Well, we removed that hurdle. Builders aren't coming because there's no parking in downtown. We removed that hurdle. We, as the citizens of Elmhurst, have paid taxpayer money to build multiple parking garages within and on the outskirts of our downtown area. The current TIF is in its TIF extension. So the 23 years of the initial downtown TIF is already expired. We're in year 10 of 13 of the extension. So by the time it's done, that's 36 years of TIF control in our CBD, our central business district. What is being proposed, and I would like to get further clarification on how even it is legal to do a TIF that is a sub-area of a TIF that's already been in place for 36, or 30 at this time, and soon to be 36 years, 33, soon to be 36. But how is it even legal to be able to do that? But we removed all the restrictions. When we had the consultant here 2 weeks ago, I talked about, and no one even contradicted the fact that there's low vacancy rate in downtown. It was made mention by one of the aldermen on what great businesses and restaurants we have coming to downtown. Well, a lot of those businesses didn't even have any type of incentive, TIF nor sales tax, but they're here. We always hear that Elmhurst is a great area because of its location, location, location. Steps away from downtown city of Chicago, rail service, expressways all around us, and it is, and all those are facts. And if we all believe in that, why is there a necessity to do another 23-year TIF? I don't see it. I don't see why there's a necessity. I also made the request, I didn't get any answer or response on, why do we need to do this now? Nobody responded. We have 3 more years left on this current TIF. Why do we have to start the TIF process now? No answer to that. Why not wait and get feedback from the other government bodies that this will impact? Why not get a draft IGA in place before we start this process? Nobody responded to that 2 weeks ago. I'm asking questions and I'm not getting any answers. Why? Maybe nobody has those answers. But if the answers aren't there, why not wait? I asked respectfully 2 weeks ago if the committee would pull this back. I did not make a motion because, as we've seen, I make a motion and it hasn't gone anywhere in the past. So I respectfully ask again today on why are we moving forward with something when we don't have all the answers? We don't have a draft IGA. I personally don't know what the other government bodies feel about it, and I know legally they don't need to be on board, but it's called intergovernmental cooperation. I would like to understand what they, as other government bodies, say about another 23-year extension. I would also like to understand on why we need to do it now. Why do we need to do it when we have lower than 5% vacancy rate in our downtown? Why do we need to do it when we already removed the restrictions by doing a zoning code change of density? Why do we need to do it when we already have 5 parking structures around our downtown area? And then lastly, why do we need to do it and include Wilder Park, Hawthorne, IC, and then YMCA, which is a not-for-profit? Why are those entities being included? So there seems to me that there's been some discussion on how this TIF will be utilized. I'm not included in that discussion, but otherwise, why would we include some of these other properties, being Wilder, Hawthorne, and the YMCA, in the TIF boundaries? A lot of questions. I don't see the urgency. I can't support this. As I said 2 weeks ago, I'm not saying that I'm against this, but there's way too many unanswered questions for me to move forward at this time.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Palomsky.
Thank you, Mayor. When we walked through the process for the North York TIF, we discussed a rather detailed timeline on what our decision-making process was. I'm just wondering if we can get just a quick overview of what this decision means tonight and what happens going forward should the council decide or not to adopt this TIF, including DTIF, RETIF, future meetings. Do we have a general timeline and process what this means?
Alderman Mulliner, do you wish to respond to that? I know what the timeline is.
You
but
probably have the actual written timeline. I don't have the written timeline in front of me.
If this resolution passes, this is really what Alderman Mulliner said, which is this starts the process. Ultimately, there's a JRB, there's public notice, there's public hearing, and then ultimately, it would come to council for either DTIF and RETIF, depending on will of the council. But all that stuff I mentioned happens between now and the end of March.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
I just want to say Alderman Bader was kind enough to correct one of my statements that IC is not included in this proposed TIF.
Okay. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Twitter. Aye. Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palomsky.
Aye.
Bram.
No.
Toledo, absent. York, absent. Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Onquist, absent. Kennedy, absent. Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
9 ayes, 1 nays, 4 absent.
And as one name, motion carries. Agenda item 5.10 is approved. Under reports and recommendations of appointed elected officials, Mayor Morley, that is me. Happy New Year, everybody. Garbage pickup is delayed by 1 day. Christmas tree pickup for the next 2 weeks. Make sure everything's removed from your Christmas tree when you drag it out to the parkway. Also, during this cold snap, we ask everyone to be vigilant, not only in when they're out and about, but keep an eye on your neighbors, especially elderly neighbors. I would direct people to our city website. There is a bunch of tips on how to better prepare or handle this cold weather. You can, the city has designated warming areas, warming centers. You can contact, certainly you can get those online, but you can also contact police non-emergency to get a better description. By all means, if you feel you are in any danger, don't hesitate to call 911 during these cold periods. Lastly, I will be giving the state of the city a week from today at Community Bank of Elmhurst, presenting to the Chamber. The Chamber and the Community Bank of Elmhurst sponsor that. City Manager Grabowski.
Thank you. Just one item. Alderman Mulliner alluded to it. The next city council meeting is delayed 1 day due to the Martin Luther King holiday, so that will be on the 16th rather than the 15th.
Any other reports? Seeing none, we'll go on to other business. Any other business? Motion to adjourn? Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Sabatino. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.